Professor Macharia Munene, the Professor of History and International Relations. Welcome once again to the Kenyan Historian. It's always a pleasure to have you. Now, how do you call this? Is it a political drama? What is happening?
I think political drama is a good terminology. Kenyans are being entertained, and at the same time, serious things are taking place, diverting public attention from serious things. Mm-hmm. So that's part of the drama. As people concentrate on one thing, other things are happening. So it's very well orchestrated.
Who is the orchestrator in this case?
President William Ruto.
Why say so? He's been silent. He's been silent about it.
That's why he is very smart. He doesn't have to say anything, gets other people to do things. And then reap the benefits. He's a very good student of Moi in that regard. Sometimes Moi used to do things and you won't see him. Only you see the manifestations of that.
So they say you see the hand.
You see the hand. You can tell what's going on. So this one, if Ruto did not want it, it will not happen. But
so you agree with Gachagua, because Gachagua said, from the look of things, the whole process had the blessings of State House.
Yes, not just State House, because State House can be ambiguous. It's President Ruto, which has actually, yes, synonymous with State House when you say that. That does not mean that Gachagua does not have a role to play in it. His attitude and behavior helped the process.
What do you mean when you say attitude and behavior?
Deputy President Gachagua misunderstood himself and his role in the government. He was nominated by William Ruto as a running mate. And yes, when we went to vote, we voted for a ticket led by William Ruto, assisted by Gachagua. Therefore, we were voting for a presidency in that sense. He forgot that the fact that they were together on the ticket does not mean that they are equal. There is only one president, not two. And he kept on implying that they are almost equal. He kept on saying how they were elected together. And yes, the Constitution 2010 had created that requirement for the simple reason that the crafters wanted to stop Moi from doing what Moi used to do. So you know, Moi used to fire vice presidents and appoint them on the roadside. So they wanted to stop that. And that's why they put that provision. Now, President Ruto would want to go back to those old days. So he does a lot of things like Moi. He's a student of Moi. But Gachagua misunderstood that there is only one president. There is no co-presidency. Although William Ruto, when he was deputy president, did behave as if he was a co-president to Uhuru. It's a different ball game. Gachagua, because he used to work for Moi. Both of them used to work for Moi. Had he understood Moi, because Moi made it very clear in 1984 and 1978. When Moi became president, he told the people that everybody must answer to him. And he was answerable only to God. Not very many people took him serious, but that's what he said in September 1978. It took time before people understood what Moi was saying. Mm-hmm. And in 1984, at the airport, he looked at his vice president, Mwai Kibaki, And he ordered him to stop thinking. Because he said thinking is a presidential prerogative. When you're vice president, you don't think.
You act.
You just do what you are told.
What you've been told.
Yes. Utaimba wimbo yangu, yeah? I put a full stop. You know, so he was very blunt, eh? And within a week or two, Kibaki was singing very well, eh? Because there cannot be two centers of power in the presidency. And that was very, so Gachagua appears to have misunderstood that.
When we look at the attempt to look like a co-governor, like the attempt to co-govern, is it something that emanated from the 2010 Constitution?
Well, I said that the 2010 Constitution tried to cure some of the Moi misdeeds. Eh? That's what it tried to do.
The firings,
on
the
the streets, and that's what it tried to. But it still did not remove the fact that there's one president. And the fact that the deputy or vice president is supposed to be intelligent enough to know the difference. Gachagua made that mistake of making it easy for Ruto to fix him. Because when he kept on saying the president and I, the president and I.
Oh, you've said something. You've said Gachagua made it easy for Ruto to fix him.
Yes.
So you want to say everything and the way Gachagua was behaving, the utterances, Ruto left him to continue and...
He was doing a very good job of fixing himself. Remember from the day one, when they were inaugurated, although Gachagua's chief supporter, Mutahi Kahiga, told us something different afterwards. Remember the blunder that he made on the inauguration day? Getting off the script to attack Uhuru, who was down.
Yes.
In front of visitors.
That is during...
on the inauguration day.
The inauguration
Apart
day.
from the mistake he made in swearing, he couldn't read the script. He was told, what's wrong with you? Slow down, just follow the instructions. And then instead of just swearing in properly, and then say welcome the president to do his, he decided to make a big speech of his own, which was not very wise. And in that speech of his own, he went off tangent. He spent a lot of time attacking Uhuru and the departing government.
People expected a different...
They expected there's some decorum, maturity. Let's say maturity. He did not show himself to be very mature. You know, even from your youthful days, when you fight, and when somebody is down, do you continue beating him?
No. You wake them up.
No,
then you wait a little bit. Then you continue.
No, if he's down, he's down. You say, okay, it's over.
Yeah, sometimes you will wake them up.
And they say, do you still want to continue? But you know, no, that was the wrong forum.
Pull them up and then are you ready for a second round?
If he's not ready for a second round, you don't do it. You know, you keep quiet. You let the fellow recover.
Yes.
But he seemed to be beating somebody who is down. And Uhuru was very civilized in that because he sat there just quietly. Very mature. So the contrast was very big between a mature person who happens to be down and an immature person who appears to be up. And to buttress that point, the visiting heads of government and state told him off. You know, they said, we did not come here for this, And that really was vivid. Something was wrong. Did he have to do that? That's one. So he showed some immaturity. Did not have a sense of proportion, a sense of the occasion. Because maturity requires you know what the occasion is and what you can or cannot say or do. He did not seem to know that. And that one said, so people, they did not blame the president. When they just saw an immature what? Deputy. Yes. In fact, the president even looked magnanimous. So he offered Uhuru a job. And said, please continue with the,
Yeah.
So when you put that contrast, a president who is behaving maturely and recognizes the value of his predecessor, say, please continue with this kind of work. And the departing president acknowledged
and takes up the job.
So, yeah. So what happens thereafter is another matter. But at that particular public place, the image of an incoming president paying homage to the departing what? Was very mature. The contrast is the deputy, who does not seem to know the occasion and act appropriately.
So when you say that, let's look at it. The inauguration
Yes.
has gone.
Yes.
Rigathi Gachagua is in office as the deputy president. William Ruto is the president.
Yes.
Because what you are alluding to is how Rigathi Gachagua shot himself in the foot.
Yes.
Did he continue?
Yes, he continued in different ways. Apart from the mess on the inauguration day, he had a big ambition and he did not know how to go about it. See, apart from beating Uhuru his one down, he also wanted to replace Uhuru.
In Mount Kenya?
In Mount Kenya as the acknowledged titular head.
Let's say the kingpin.
Yeah, the mountain people don't have kings. So, they rejected the idea of kings from the generation of Iregi. So, although the word is used very much by people who want to be called kings or kingpins, in fact, even Gachagua has called him king, himself a king. But that acknowledgement of being a king, the leader of the region, he struggled very hard to insist that people must acknowledge him as the leader. And his reason was spurious. It's because he's number 2 and the highest ranking person from the mountain.
From the mountain.
In government.
It should be automatic.
It should be automatic. You have to acknowledge him as the leader. And then forgetting that people are looking at something beyond the position that he has. Is he really a leader? Does he display maturity? Does he show the way? Or he's bullying his way? And instead of showing the way, he appeared to be bullying his way.
Actually, some people are calling him a bully.
Well, he appeared to behave that way. And being the bully that he appeared to be, he seemingly was not very good at listening to advice. Because he knows. Maybe it was the DO in him. He gives some orders and people follow. What people remember of him as a DO is not very flattering.
So he stopped being a DO, but the DO did not leave him.
The DO in him did not leave him. And so even when he has this higher position, it's the DO in him that's coming out. And although I know that people tried to say, wait a minute, things are going to be, are not going the way you are thinking. They are likely to be rough. A number of people try to advise him, whether you like it or not. Ruto and Raila are going to get together. Even when you were saying about putting traps in, people said, what are you talking about? Those people who have studied these things very well, and they knew Raila and they knew Ruto, say these people are going to get together, and you are going to be sacrificed. He refused to listen. And making those who are telling him that look as if they are the ones who don't think properly. He was there when Joshua Karanja was shown the door. And maybe he was part of the showing You don't know. 1989. That was that, around that time, anyway. But in the same way that people advised Karanja, when he was appointed to replace Kibaki, and it got into his head that he was very important.
Josephat Karanja.
Yes.
For those who don't know him.
Yeah, Josephat Karanja, highly rated High Commissioner to London, the first High Commissioner to London from Kenya. Highly rated Vice Chancellor of the University of Nairobi. Actually, the first Vice Chancellor of the University of Nairobi. Highly rated. And he was good in those places. And then somehow he was persuaded to go into politics. And arrangements were made for him to become an MP and then appointed assistant minister. So he started getting into his head. And in the Mlolango fiasco, he says somehow things were maneuvered and he was made to look as if he's what Charles Rubia called what? The prefect of Nairobi. So Rubia was very angry. Who made you a prefect? He behaved that way. And then when he was appointed vice president, people immediately told him, just what you're in trouble. You will not last in this office. I think one of the publications magazines at the time is the one that wrote and said this would happen. He could not see it. But his fate was already sealed. Investigations later on might point out to where the whole thing was coming from, which is a different story in itself. But those who had some idea knew he was not going to last. And they said so. He outdid, once he finished his job, and his main achievement was to push through Parliament a special holiday called Moi Day, which was to come before Kenyatta Day. So after that, he became useless.
He had outlived his purpose.
He had outlived his purpose, and they started accusing him of imagining he's a president before me and all those. And he was shown the door. Gachagua should have learned from that. That if it is true that at one time Karanja imagined himself to be an acting president, and then Moi, wherever he was, said there is no such a thing as an acting president. He's president everywhere. And that should have been. So poor Gachagua seems not to have learned from history about some of these things. So there he was pushing to be the leader of the mountain and was not convincing to the mountain.
Yes.
And so
he didn't gain sufficient
No,
track.
Even today he doesn't have it. He is acknowledged to have had that position, yes. And in the process, he gradually gained some sympathy. And he had some MPs who gravitated towards him because he's the highest ranking officer.
Yes.
And for Governor Mutahi Kahiga, you can understand, because he's from Nyeri, so it's a Madeira issue. That you give him that. But it's Mutahi Kahiga who told us, trying to excuse Gachagua, the blunders, He said that it is Ruto who told him to do those things. Like beating up on Uhuru, That is, it's Ruto who told him to talk about shares, It is Ruto who told him to talk about traps around the state. So, and a lot of things that Gachagua did which were inappropriate or said. Kahiga told us it is Ruto who told him as a way of excusing Gachagua from the blame. Fair enough. But it raised a more fundamental question about Gachagua's maturity. If indeed it is Ruto who told him to do all these awkward things and he simply did without thinking, then how can he be a leader? He should be able to discern these things and tell what is appropriate and what is not. And even if he was to do it, you find some good language that will not tie him down.
Let's look at the charges that were leveled against Gachagua.
Yes.
Unataka irudi nje?
Nimevuruga sana.
Ndio wapi hiyo simu nyingine ama kwa hii mfuko? Let's look at some of the allegations that were leveled against Gachagua. The biggest which I saw and which many people are mentioning was about propagating ethnic divisions, that he was inciting. Like his utterances were inciting and were causing ethnic divisions. At what point, and you remember it's one of the reasons, the count that actually threw him out, because senators supported that count. What do you think of it?
The whole impeachment drama, as you said, Michael,
Yeah.
was simply drama. And those are some of the excuses. And some of the allegations being made can apply to a lot of people, including the president.
Himself.
Yes. Now, what is this thing that's being called that he was promoting ethnic division? Can you pinpoint any?
They say his utterances, that Mulima, you know, his utterances about protecting the Mulima.
The Mulima, that's when he was trying to get acceptance as the leader of the Mulima.
So it was more of his, he was more like fighting for his position in Mount Kenya.
That acceptance which was not forthcoming. Now, he did talk about some things that some people construed to apply only to the Mulima, about coffee and tea and all those things. But that's not the only place where you find those things, is it?
You find in Kericho.
You find them everywhere. But the political mischief construe that to say that he's talking about Mulima. Of course, there is that concern that a lot of coffee and a lot of tea farmers, and maybe dairy farmers, were suffering, or some things appear not to be going well. But politics being mischievous, it appeared as if it is addressing the concern of those people alone. I don't think that was the case. But a lot of them, yes. The coffee, the tea, the dairy, and other places. Political, there are those people who are looking for excuses to fix him.
So most of these counts were about fixing the DP.
Yeah, it was fixing him. And as I said, he helped in the fixing.
He helped. He played a role.
He played a role. So when he said he was defending the Mulima, in order to get the acceptance of the Mulima, but also since there were also uncalled for accusations against the Mulima, there were. And one of the arguments often made, when people at the coast meet, and they have been meeting leaders, so we are meeting to make sure that we protect and advance.
Even the lawyer unity.
Yes, and you don't hear noise about so that's discrimination against the Mulima. The Somalis do that, the Luyas do that, the Luo do that, and the Kalenjins do it. And they said, no, we have to do these things. Why? And they say, we need to demand these shares here. We need the Maendeleo. This fellow in Bungoma, Trans Nzoia,
yes.
in Natembea, he's been tembearing very well, saying we must do this thing. You don't hear him being accused of this thing. And he's doing a pretty good job of course, challenging Musalia and Wetangula. And he does it based on the creating a sense of Luhya unity, something like that. It's not an issue. So I think that's part of the political mischief.
Okay. When we look at the issues that have been in the political arena in Kenya, they didn't just happen.
No.
For example, the impeachment didn't just happen.
No.
When you look at it, there have been a succession of issues that, especially even before, let's say even before the Gen Z protest, there were issues. You remember even when the DP at a particular time went missing for some time.
Yeah.
Then he happened to resurface. He had been denied access to the choppers, especially the military police. Then he resurfaced and then they were back. But then the Gen Z protest happened. Yes. Let's say the protests that were led by the young people happened. And Rigathi Gachagua was accused of having a hand in what happened. And remember, even the allegations were part of the accusations that were brought to court, and they said it amounted to insubordination of the president. Now, can you express yourself on that?
I think it's giving Gachagua too much power and too much credit on the Gen Z issue. He didn't have any power to do that. I think his crime was that he did not look as if he was very sad. And the accusations being made left and right, because there was the Gen Z movement was a surprise to many people. That's why we are being told the Russians have done it. And then we are told the Americans did it. And then we are told, no, now it has to be, no, it's a Uhuru. And then Gachagua.
Then Gachagua found
So they were not very clear who it is. I mean, but I think you give the Gen Z's credit, whoever, the thinker or the thinkers, using the cyber knowledge which they have, and the ability to mobilize in such a way that was unprecedented, and actually to force change, though short-lived, to force change.
So you don't agree with the fact that, remember, his office was linked. They said there were officers from Gachagua's office, and even they are in court over the same.
Yes.
That probably they were behind, and not just officers, even members of parliament who.
Those who are known to be
his associates,
running around with him like Gakuya.
Yes.
This is part of the political game. We don't know the full details. There may be some thinking that, yes, some people within the government helped to infiltrate and change the movement. Now, Gachagua was part of the government, wasn't he? But was he the only member in the government?
So you say the most visible thing you can tell that makes some people link him or appear that he might have known some few things is him not appearing like a person who has also been humiliated as the president was humiliated.
I think that was the factor. The guy, he did not seem to be very sad about the whole movement. It is the president who was humiliated, not Gachagua. Although he was part and parcel of that government. It is the entire government that was humiliated, and he was part of it.
But Gachagua did not show that he was a person who had been humiliated.
Well, he has a problem showing anything positive in himself. That's why, but you remember he tried to make an argument which was in terms of procedure improper. When I think he spoke after the president.
Yes.
And he was somewhere at the coast. is it Malindi or wherever he was?
It was in Mombasa, a coastal city.
Yeah. And then he blamed the NIS.
The intelligence, the National Intelligence Service.
Yes. For not providing the government with the right information to foretell of the Gen Zs. I think that was a mistake on his part. What evidence did he have that Nordin Haji, the Director General, who has direct communication
with the president,
because he briefs the president every day, or virtually almost all the time. That is after collecting all the information and the evidence. And the information and the evidence that things were not going right was not new. Even I knew that. Okay? Ordinary people could tell things are going wrong. What Haji was reporting to the president, we don't know. So what gave Gachagua authority to say that Haji did not report to the president properly? You know, these people of information gathering, not the media, but the government, yeah?
Yes.
Their job is to gather the information, analyze it, make sense of it, and give it to the authorities, to do something. We do not know what Haji told the consumers.
The National Security Council.
Yeah, we don't know.
Yeah.
So for Gachagua to come and say he did not do that, then questions come, is he privy to some other information that's not available to the right channels? To Haji. Not just to Haji, but the entire National Security Council, which involves the military, because they also have their own way of gathering what?
Information, yeah.
And passing it to the president, to the various organs. So for him to say that there was that failure, it's a very serious allegation.
A big one.
A big one, and he did not provide the evidence to say that that had happened. Maybe he talked to the president, maybe. And the president maybe told him, I did not know these things. If the president told Gachagua that he did not know that this was coming, because he had not been told, he had not been given, that one we do not know. But I think it was a mistake to blame NIS or failure to brief the president and the Security Council properly. I think that was a mistake on his part.
A mistake.
Yeah, and that just added to the... I think one of the accusations was that he was breaching what? The oath of office?
Oath of his office.
Something like that is so secret that...
you can't just go and throw it in public.
But he's not the first person to do that. It's been happening all the time. But it became a good excuse to blame him for something.
Okay. Now, Rigathi Gachagua stands impeached by the Senate. But
no, he was convicted by the Senate.
But convicted by the Senate.
Yeah, he was impeached by the National Assembly.
Oh, he was impeached by the Senate, the National Assembly, which was...
They like the prosecutor, they say you have a case to answer. An impeachment is simply a statement you have a case to answer. And if you have a case to answer, you go to court. They take you to court. And the Senate is the court.
Is the court in this matter.
In this matter. And he was taken to court Senate.
Yes.
And the court Senate said he was guilty.
Of the 5 issues that were raised by, of the 11 issues that were raised by the National Assembly?
They decided by a vote of this, whatever,
yes,
that at least the jury believed that he was guilty of some of those
5
allegations.
Yes.
Yes.
So,
and just one was enough. Just one was enough.
One was enough according to the Kenyan Constitution. So he was impeached, and then
he was convicted.
Convicted.
Yes.
So when we say impeached, actually we should say impeached by the National Assembly.
Yes.
But convicted by the Senate.
Yes.
Now I get that point.
He was
it was actually, some people use the word confirmed. The Senate confirms the impeachment by the National Assembly. Now I get why some people say the Senate has to confirm the impeachment by the National Assembly.
Because it's a trial.
Yes, because when we look at what happens with governors, you are impeached by the county assembly.
He was even allowed in the Senate to defend himself.
Yes.
In the National Assembly, he did not have a chance to defend.
Yeah, I'm just trying to look at it the way it has been happening with governors.
Yes.
You are impeached by the county assembly.
The county assembly, they make the accusation.
Then the Senate either confirms, convicts you and confirms.
And leaves you out.
or not.
The Senate is through the trial. The trial chamber.
It's actually the same.
Yeah.
Now, with what, after that, the president moved very swiftly.
Yes.
To appoint Professor Kithure Kindiki, the Interior CS, as his replacement.
Yes.
And parliamentary approval came just
within hours.
Hot on the heels.
Yes.
Within hours.
It's pre-arranged. There is that's why the whole thing was orchestrated. So confirm, convict by this time, and the replacement is waiting here. And we're Tangula, and you call your people. Make sure they are there on standby.
Gachagua has gone to the final, let me say, the only final survival chance he has.
Yes.
The court.
Yes.
But from where you sit,
yes,
does he still has like a chance to survive? Or is it a done deal?
Yeah, of course he has a chance because the whole process was flawed in many ways. But it's up to now the judiciary. Remember, the judiciary is the one that let out Wambora.
Yes, many times, not once.
The man was convicted.
Convicted, but he survived all the time.
He was impeached by the County Assembly of Embu.
Yes.
He was tried in the Senate and convicted.
Yes.
And then the judiciary pointed out that there were anomalies in the whole thing. Therefore, the process was invalid.
Mm-hmm.
I think the team of lawyers, and this was anticipated. It was anticipated it was going to happen. So he had a team that was already prepared for this. And as the trial was coming to an end, they had, that's why they moved very quickly to court. Say, here are the grounds for questioning the process and calling it the illegality and the unconstitutionality of the whole process.
Mm-hmm.
If the other side can show that whatever was happening was within the constitutional mandate, then he will have to get out of there. But it also depends on how things go. See, Kindiki was supposed to be sworn in.
Today?
Today. We don't know whether he has been sworn in or not.
This is today being Saturday?
This Saturday. And he should be sworn in by a certain time. You don't swear people after 2 o'clock.
Yeah.
Something like that. And then the question being raised is whether even that is being followed properly, the procedure, or doing And somebody was trying to say the IBC needs to be involved, but the lawyers are debating among themselves, and that this is not an IBC matter. This is a nominee by the president.
By the president,
yeah.
But what I've heard from the legal minds, and especially when they're arguing, some of them are saying that when you get conservatory orders, they nullify even what had already been they hold what had been until the case that is pending in court is heard and determined.
Yes.
So with the conservative orders that they are there, which first of all they stop the swearing in.
Yes.
But it means it also stops the decision of the Senate.
Yes. Until now, the judiciary deals with it and gives a final verdict.
Until the courts express themselves on it.
Yeah. So first of all, they've gone to the High Court, and the High Court has requested the Chief Justice, to appoint.
Yeah, he has appointed the bench of 3.
Yeah. And the bench, whatever the bench comes up with, then might be appealed in the Supreme Court. So it's going to be a process,
It can take quite a while.
It can take quite a while, depending on how it is handled.
So what happens in between?
In theory, Gachagua is still the DP. In theory, in that. But if they decide to ignore the judiciary, and the executive has a habit of ignoring the judiciary and court orders on all those things, then you have an awkward situation of there being 2 deputies. Actually, the impression that the executive will give is that it is lawless. But for Gachagua, if eventually the judiciary decides in his favor, he at least exonerates himself. Because what has happened in the Senate in convicting him, it makes him ineligible for any office thereafter.
For how many years? 10? I
think for a long time. It makes him, about 10 or so years. But,
the heat years will be very long.
But the main thing right now is for Gachagua to exonerate his name. Because as some of those lawyers were saying for the National Assembly, they were saying this is a political process, not a legal what?
Process.
Yeah, they kept on saying that. So stop raising technical issues of the legal nature. Remember, I think Otienda Amolo is the one who was saying, don't harass us with the weaknesses in the legal provisions. This is a political what?
Process, yeah.
Yes. But what the courts have said before, even political process should be fair. Even those ones. In the Wabora case, I think that's what they... So what Gachagua may be now fighting for is to exonerate his name and point out that this thing was improper. And therefore he's not barred from holding what? Public office. I think that's the main thing. That how it will pan out, I'm not sure.
Because many people are questioning, even if he, for example, even before the Senate made the decision, well, like the way he's fighting, even if the Senate exonerates him, now we have passed that stage. So many are asking, even if the courts exonerate him and he's back to the office, how will we work? Will it be the same script as what happened during Uhuru's second term?
Well, the precedent set by the Ruto, not a very nice one, whereby the president and deputy, who appear to be one, like twins, political Siamese twins, then become completely at loggerheads, is not a very good one for the country. Because Uhuru and Ruto behaved as if they were a co-presidency. And they had different expectations. Some of the things we have heard were not very good. Maybe the Uhuru people expected Ruto not to vie for the presidency after 10 years. It's Uhuru who said 10-10.
Yes.
And so where did this notion come from that his deputy should not vie? Because it looks as if there was an expression that he will not vie. And Ruto is the same way, but I supported you on the understanding that I was so. What is this thing?
Yeah.
There is that, the Raila factor, which is always there in every administration, from what we have seen.
From Moi's time.
From Moi's time. Raila loses an election, and it's questionable whether he ever wants to win anyway, because he can cut better deals afterwards. It happened in 1997. After the election, she was not even anywhere near. And they found a way of cutting a deal with Moi and getting into the government and dislodging Saitoti and Kamodo in Kanu. And maybe expected some other things that didn't happen, which is a subject of another matter. But there he was. Then when Moi did not favor him, he jumped ship and joined Kibaki.
Yes.
For a short while, in the NARC coalition. And within a short time, he was quarreling with Kibaki.
And the NARC collapsed.
You are not giving me what I thought you were going to give me.
Yeah.
Co-presidency. That's what it was. The MOU was nothing else but about a co-presidency.
They said there was an agreement about Raila becoming prime minister.
Yeah, which was
changing the constitution.
By then, there was no innovation like the one we saw Uhuru make.
Yes.
With Matiang'i. Maybe Kibaki should have created some innovation. The Uhuru, but there was no provision at the time. That's what Kibaki was arguing about. But the Raila people got very good jobs, top jobs. But that was not. My understanding, that was not the main argument, was that Raila wanted to have a say on who get appointed where, particularly on his side. And Kibaki sometimes would appoint people he thought were fit in whatever position without having to ask. No, he asked Raila for some areas, but in others he decided to put whoever he thought.
Yes.
And that's, in theory, where the quarrel started. You are not listening to me. And then in 2007, there was a manufactured crisis. The violence. It was violence before the election, during the election, and after the election, and it appeared to have been sponsored from outside the country. It appears. The donors, the Western powers, who didn't like Kibaki at all. And they wanted him out. They even campaigned against him openly. You remember that? And when he won.
It is believed that Raila won.
No, that's a misbelief. He didn't win. He lost very narrowly by 200,000 or thereabouts.
That is according to ECK?
No, that's according to evidence. Yes, but people don't like looking at the evidence. So, let me finish that part.
Yeah.
As soon as Kivuitu announced, the British government, without any evidence, start saying there must be what? Power sharing. And you say, on what basis are they saying that? And the violence that intensified, it did not start because there was an announcement. There was violence before the announcement. There was violence before the election itself. That's why some people voted in some makeshift booths. You remember there was that? Because there was violence. Now, the violence that put the country in a very backward situation is the one that now led to the proper coalition government. Nusu Mkate, mediated by Kofi Annan, who was sent by the Western powers to fix the problem. And he fixed the problem. So what the British government had called for,
came to happen.
Power sharing, was implemented in that. And who was the beneficiary? And in the power sharing, there was almost a co-presidency. Almost. Not exactly. Okay. Then you have in 2018, he loses the election. And the court said repeat. And there was a repeat. And of course, he still lost. Gone.
Yeah.
And Raila is very good at creating something called ungovernability. And that ungovernability then makes it necessary for whoever is sitting there to look for him. And Uhuru kept on saying, I'm looking for peace. And it can only be found with Raila. And Raila's condition for peace is that you give him something and his people. And which means you maybe get rid of the number 2 so that it will be easier for him next time, in theory. So once the deal with Uhuru did not work out very well because he did not become president, for whatever reasons why he lost, most of the blame actually in the Azimio camp. But he lost. And he was able to create an environment whereby Ruto has to look for him. So when he looks for him, what happens? So, yes, accommodate and make Gachagua look very foolish. You're the one who said, yeah, it is happening. We told you it's going to happen. So in almost every situation where Raila comes into the government, whoever is the number 2 or appears as a potential challenger ends up in trouble. And the same thing has happened here. And the question of protocol and all those kind of things. So that appears to be what's been going on.
Yeah.
Yes.
When you look at what are the likely outcomes of the court process?
It can be prolonged, or since there is, as far as I know, there is no constitutional provision as to how long this can take. In the appeal in the elections, the timetable is there.
Yes.
Have everything by this time. And it's the Supreme Court to decide, so you don't start below there because it's straight. This one, it's open. And if it's open, it can take a long time before Gachagua officially gets out of office.
Oh.
If he's going to get out of office.
Okay. Now.
But if he is not getting out, then he can remain in office without any work because his functions are delegated by the president.
They've been given to someone else.
Yeah, it's not Ruto who is starting that. Uhuru started that. When he made Matiang'i.
I remember Ruto remained with one role. There was one role that he used to perform even when they were at crossroads. The IBEG. It's called the IBEG.
He would invite the president to make a speech.
Yeah, and then there was this. There was this where he had meetings with the councillors, county governors.
Yeah, even Gachagua would do it. I think it's expected that that's part of the job, without very much.
Without very much.
Anything.
Okay.
So now, even today, so you have Musalia Mudavadi as the unofficial prime minister. So the office of the deputy or the vice is a ceremonial office for practical purposes.
Yeah.
Depending on what the president wants you to do. And the holder of the office should know that. And if there is nothing for you to do, just enjoy yourself.
But the interpretation of, let me say at the beginning of the implementation of the 2010 Constitution, and as you clearly put it out, the precedents that was set by William Ruto and Uhuru Kenyatta made it appear more like they co-govern.
Yeah, that was a mistake.
You remember even the appointments were made 50-50.
They were consulting and they were seen to consult together and then come out wearing the same uniform to make an announcement. They created that image of beings, political twins. And then that's why people were asking afterwards, what happened? Where did you go wrong? And remember, they were going to the Kenyatta Market to eat meat together.
Yes.
And so it was a mistake. Give Ruto credit, because even at that time, since Uhuru gave the impression of being laid back, he left a lot of things to Ruto to do. He did. And Ruto was very clever. He went out of his way to be seen to be the one doing. So even when people grumble, it was Ruto who would respond. I remember at one time, people on the mountain were grumbling. Things are not good, they're neglected. And it was Ruto who cooled them down. Say, no. The president has not ignored you, has not neglected you. In fact, he's very concerned about your welfare. But he wants to be re-elected, so he has to...
What made it very hard to impeach William Ruto under Uhuru Kenyatta?
But there was no desire for Uhuru to have him impeached.
Yeah, there were some talks. Street rumors. There
were street rumors and a lot, especially in the second term.
Yes, in the second term.
Not in the first term.
I'm talking about the second term.
Yeah, maybe especially when now the camaraderie between Uhuru and Raila came. Mm-hmm. And now clearly Ruto was being pushed out.
Yes.
And people were wondering what's going on. Ruto appeared like a victim. And he played that very well. Mm-hmm. Also give Uhuru credit for being a little more mature. Impeachment is a traumatizing thing.
Yeah, just the way we've seen.
Yeah, mm-hmm. And I think Uhuru, being the mature person he was, did not want to push that, especially when it can be questioned. And the fact that it was difficult for Uhuru to explain where the quarrel came from between him and Ruto would have made even impeachment sound even more
harsh,
complicated.
More complicated, yeah.
And by 2020, the ground was shifting away from Uhuru in many places. Mm. And we started noticing even MPs saying, hey, to be accountable to the ground, not after Uhuru was on his way out, officially. Yes. And so their own survival they required that they shift ground.
Yes.
Some things happened that were not very favorable to Uhuru in terms of governance. And he did not seem to explain himself very well. Remember when he told the public that Kenya was losing 2 billion shillings a day, and he was the president, and then he asked, mnataka nifanye nini? He looked helpless.
And speaking from State House.
Yeah, so he looked helpless. And a president has no business looking helpless. So there was some vibes there. He did try to assert himself in Parliament, which backfired. Yeah, it backfired. Remember Kangata and his letter?
Yes.
Say, Your Excellency, things are not good. Mm. By the time Kangata was writing, things were bad. And he was a leader in Parliament, saying things are bad.
Being the leader of majority in the Senate, and then
he said the things, and and then what happened to Kangata? She was fired. And what was the message all across? There's bullying going on, You should listen to Edwin Duale talk about what his supposed tribulations at the time. Yes, there was an attempt to isolate Ruto, and it seemingly backfired. It was Uhuru who created the term Tanga-Tanga when he told the public, if you see huyu kijana Tanga-Tanga huku mitaani, mumwambie shida zenyu eh? And then this kijana took that advantage and turned it into a plus. Remember when he purported to give a report? So, Your Excellency, you gave an assignment to be inspecting. Here's my report. You know, and the term Tanga-Tanga is stuck, yeah?
Yes.
And there are those who had started something called Kieleweke. They should remain nameless, giving the impression that really they wanted Ruto out. Kieleweke.
Kitaeleweka.
But they were not able to eleza. Yeah, they were not able. Instead, whatever they were doing appeared to be mischievous, which increased sympathy for William Ruto, looking like a victim. So there were a lot of mistakes here and there. So, but Uhuru was smart enough not to bring that kind of thing. Already the signs were showing that it might have some problems.
Thank you so much, Prof. Thank you once again and appearing on the Kenyan Historian.
Thank you very much, my pleasure.
We love you on this platform.
Thank you.
Asante.
We hope it makes sense and continue to make sense.
Asante.